Hey, gang, this is Carl White, and I am broadcasting actually from the studios today over here at the Author Showcase home studios. And you are listening to the Author Showcase podcast, sponsored by the Scotsman's Guide. And I am your co-pilot. With the pilot in command today is Mr. Jay O'Brien, coming out of the sunny Southern Cal himself. So, Jay, first of all, good morning. Great to have you here today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Carl.
Cool. Dude, you wrote a great article, and man, you had some great points in there. I loved it. So as you're listening to this, make sure you go read the August episode of the Scotsman Guide. And Jay wrote an article called "In a World of Bots, Be Human." Man, we could actually stop at the title right there, and that would suffice enough. That's a very well statement. Once you kind of dive into a little bit about what was your thought process behind writing the article, and did you have a particular experience, or did you see something, or what was the generation, or the genesis of the thought behind this article?
Yeah, Carl, this is actually a topic I've been speaking on for years. And I guess to say what was the genesis of it, I think it was when I bought my first home, which was, 13 years ago. And the experience was extremely sloppy. As I'm sure you've probably been through your fair share of hairy transactions before. The real estate agent and mortgage lender on my deal were not great. The communication failed time and time again, and it was kind of a miracle that the whole thing got done. And I left that experience feeling pretty deflated, thinking, I just spent the most money I've ever spent in my entire life, and I've had better experience buying shoes. And so that kind of always stuck with me. I've always been a big guy on service. So in the last 10 years or so, when we've seen so much technology into the marketplace, AI now, there is so much that is automated, and which is great, but the human touch, the human interaction is paramount. And so for me, it really kind of was, the catalyst was the real estate space, when I started to see the big competitors come to the market that were going to do the iBuyers, the iOffers, the ones that were threatening to potentially remove the real estate agent out of the equation. And it sparked interest to me, because I said, well, there's a way that we can compete with this technology that they will not be able to compete with. And that's just humanizing the transaction a lot more than anything else can. So that's kind of the purpose of the bots and be a human kind of title.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. So, so where do you think, what's the problem? So what problem has automation caused the loan officer, that they're feeling it? Maybe it's actually hurting their business. What part of automation? It's going to be a two-part question. What part of automation hurts them, and then what part of automation helps them?
Yeah. So to be clear, I don't think automation is a bad thing whatsoever. I run an entire company based on automation. It's just hitting the mark and doing it right. So I would say in general, adopting technology, very smart, but this kind of, if you were to zoom out of the whole thing, I look at the overarching problem as most business owners have their business owner hat on, and they hardly ever put on their consumer hat, even though they are a consumer. So they're constantly doing things blind to the fact that they would actually not be receptive to that if it was happening to them on the other side. So as an example, a few years back, I was coaching a few real estate agents, and someone wanted to have their direct line be an 800 number, and I could not figure that out. Like, why would you want your phone number to be an 800 number? They feel like, well, that's substantiating my business. I feel like legit to have an 800 number. And I'm thinking, when in your life have you ever wanted to call an 800 number? And now all your clients and people you want to call you are going to have to dial this 800 number? It makes no sense. And if you think about it that way, real quick, you can understand, oh, you're right, that does make no sense. So for me, I think that anything that's like an auto chat bot, or any type of automation that's happened to try and express gratitude that comes across as cheap or lazy, like getting a happy birthday card from your dentist sent to you in the mail. That's great. Clearly, no one wrote that. It was plugged into a database. It basically has zero impact on you, and you throw it in the trash within 2 seconds of reading it. So how do you elevate that experience and actually make it feel like there was a human touch behind it? And if you can figure that out, I have no problem with the automation.
Yeah. You know what? My definition of automation is I didn't do it, right? Doesn't mean that somebody doesn't do it. It's just I didn't do it, right?
Sure.
So I like that. So how can mortgage professionals, how can they best identify areas where automation can be introduced without sacrificing like the customer experience? Like
Yeah, so
how do we pick where?
in the mortgage lending and real estate world, it's unique in the fact that you have this long extended period of time to work with a client, unlike a lot of industries out there, which means you have more opportunities for touch points, more opportunities to leave an impact. And you know better than anyone the customer journey of a loan. And there's a lot of things that go on during that. Just in the very beginning, the application process can be arduous. It can be overwhelming for someone who's never done it before. Once someone thinks they are done as a borrower, then they get hounded with conditions from an underwriter, let's say, or things that they feel like maybe they're under attack. Like, I don't know how to answer these things and whatnot. And does this mean I'm not going to get approved? Does this mean I'm not going to get the house? And then, of course, the celebratory moments of your loan is approved. We are clear to close. We just funded the deal. You just got your house, like that kind of thing. Well, geez, those moments should be celebrated. And for a long time in the mortgage world, that was primarily shown, if at all, at the closing. And it's a hot topic to talk about a closing gift. But I was never really a fan of the closing gift because it kind of A, solidifies the end of a relationship, and B, it quickly quantifies how much someone was worth to you. Consumers aren't stupid. They know how much a real estate agent earns and roughly what a lender earns. So to say, I appreciate you this much, which is a bottle of wine or a gift card or whatever it may be, can be a risky thing. So the way I would suggest implementing automation in the mortgage world would be to outline what that customer journey looks like and kind of fill those pits and celebrate those peaks along the way with surprise touches, whether it's a gift, whether it's a card, whether it's a phone call, and have this system that triggers all these things. That's the automation, but everything underneath is the human touch.
I like it. So, in the mortgage world, we're asking the clients basically to lay financially naked in front of us, right? I mean,
absolutely.
They're giving us their social security number. Here's where I work. Here's my pay stubs. Like, how does building trust in the digital age differ from like the traditional methods, especially for loan officers where the trust is it's a really big deal. How do we do that in the digital age?
So one of my favorite ways of doing that, and really, again, going back to the business owner habit versus consumer, you ask any mortgage lender out there, any real estate agent for that matter, what is your favorite source of business? And they're not going to tell you when people call me from my flyers, when people go to my website or anything like that. They're going to say, when I get a referral. And why is that? Because there's built-in forgiveness in a referral. You've already won. It's your deal to lose. Someone has already endorsed you and said, Carl is the guy to go to. So if I call Carl and he doesn't answer his phone, I don't really care because I'll wait for him to call me back. But if I don't know Carl from anyone on the street and I got a flyer and I call on that, I very well might go to the next person, right? Similarly, if there's a misstep or any sort of hiccup during the transaction, there's built-in forgiveness because I'm like, this is John's guy. I trust John. He wouldn't steer me wrong. And I'm basically yours to lose. So how to do that in the digital age, much like what we just spoke about with the customer journey, is making people feel special and important on an ongoing basis, not once, not because it's the holidays, not because it's their birthday, but really for no reason and for just constantly show appreciation. One of the ways I did this as a real estate agent in my past was during a transaction, one of like 12 touches that would go out was moving boxes and packing tape and supplies, and it would show up to your door maybe day 6 of a transaction and say, hey, Carl, Here's some packing supplies and things to help with your move. It's one less thing you need to worry about. So
Mm.
that's going to hit you in a way much stronger than a Lowe's gift card. And that's something that will become share worthy, where you might post that on a social channel, you might share it with a friend. And the more that happens, the more you sort of become my sales force. And the people that are funneling into me, I essentially didn't have to directly work for, because I just went deeper with you rather than wider for new people.
Dude, shipping somebody packing supplies may be one of the best ideas, the most simple, best idea I've ever heard. I just
Thank you.
wrote that down. You'll be hearing that again. That's a that's a great idea. I really like, how could somebody shop you if you just send them a box of tape and boxes and Sharpie pens? You're my buddy now, right?
That's
So
it.
that's a great idea.
You just
Hey,
broke the barrier.
what's that?
You just broke the barrier. You said it.
Oh,
You're now a friend. You're not just a client, you're a friend.
yeah, not you're in the friend zone, which is exactly where you want to be in this case. So,
Yes.
so I like that. So, hey, any recommendations for any specific tools or platforms that mortgage professionals can, integrate or put into their daily operations? Any of some of your favorites?
This is a self-serving one, but basically, I co-founded this company, Client Giant, to do this, because I was doing this manually for so many years, that what ended up happening was the moving boxes and the surprise dinners and all these things generated a ton of referral business. Subsequently, I was named 30 under 30 with the National Association of Realtors. And then I was asked to speak quite literally all over the country and even South Africa and Canada and give keynotes on this playbook. And then after doing that for a number of years and seeing people in the audience and people such as yourself that said, moving boxes, that's a great idea, that's what I'll do. It still was just sharing more and more manual processes that someone had to execute. And lo and behold, people weren't doing it, right? It's no secret as to why I don't have a six-pack. I know how to get one, but I'm not going to execute to get it, right? It's not a shortage of information that's the problem. So that's kind of what sparked the idea. Well, if you could just emulate all of this stuff, if you could send these surprise gifts, they would come to each recipient on behalf of the business owner, and you don't see me, my name, my brand, nothing on it, because it's all you're the hero. Came from Carl, went to John. Would someone want that? And the overwhelming response was yes. So that's actually the only tool I know of to date that does it that way. But I'm sure there are systems out there, at least for reminders and things like that, project management, that would be critical.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Great service, by the way. That sounds very interesting. Hey, what's your advice to, look, there's some of us have been around the sun a few times here, right? I've done quite a few laps around the sun, and sometimes we get stuck in our old ways with old technology. And instead of an iPad, sometimes I have to wrestle a stone tablet out of my hand, right? What's your advice for loan officers or mortgage professionals who are hesitant about adopting like new technologies in the mortgage field? What would you say to those people?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things here. So if you have an old methodology to something or old technology, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what I would say is a self-audit of the business is absolutely critical. And specifically, if you're a serious business owner, to measure your efficiency. So, for example, there's plenty of mortgage lenders, real estate agents out there that say, I love to stop by my clients' houses during the holidays and drop off a pie. I do it every year. Well, you're doing $2 billion in business each year. You're not going to drive to that many houses ever. It's just not scalable. It makes no sense. But some people say, but I love it. I love to do it. Those are the ones that you have to pick a lane. Am I going to love to bake goods and send them, or am I going to love to have a successful business? And the same goes with any sort of archaic form of technology. How much time is it taking? Is there something out there that can speed this up for you? And it's the same exact output. Then you would really need to consider adopting those things rather than being stuck in the old ways. It's ultimately very self-serving for you as a business owner.
Yeah. How do you foresee, well, and this is a tough one, because things are happening so fast. how do you foresee the evolution of AI and the direction that's going and automation? How do you see that impacting the mortgage industry here over, say, the next? God, I was going to say 5 years. That's like that might be 50 years in AI years, right?
Right. It could be in
But
6 months, right?
yeah, it could. Yeah, like where do you see things say 3, 4, 5 years from now?
Well, yeah, that's a super loaded question, but I will speculate as much as I possibly can. I think like with any new technologies, there's a lot of good that comes of it, but it in that same breath, someone will find a way to weaponize it. It's like, when email was introduced, you're like, oh, I can communicate with my grandmother in New York in 1 second. This is the most amazing tool. And then a marketer hears about email and goes, oh, this is great. I'm going to send out 50,000 emails about this product and spam people. It's the same technology. So you can't say it's good. You can't say it's evil because it's both. And AI, similarly, I believe a lot of good will come from it, a lot of efficiencies, a lot of ways to streamline your practice. But it could also be weaponized in a way that is not serving to your business. I think we'll probably see, my speculation is I believe that pretty much any copy on any card or email in the near future will not have been drafted by a human being. I think shockingly, you're going to see that all the people that you've interacted with in your past that couldn't formulate a sentence are now the best writers and that might become abundantly apparent. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. And really, now that the toothpaste is out of the tube, you can't put it back in, and it's only going to evolve more.
Yeah, I think we're heading to the direction that my bot's going to talk to your bot, and they're going to have a conversation, and I don't know, maybe we're toasting a crone on a beach somewhere, uh,
Right.
or who knows, or oiling their machine, one or the other. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
so I think the basic message here that you're saying is it's not only okay, it's necessary to involve automation in your machine, but don't take out that human component. And when it's time to communicate, say with our past database, in addition to having something automated out, pick up the phone and say hello to them and tell them thank you so much for letting me help you in the past. And do you have any friends, family, or coworkers that I could help? I'd be honored to kind of count on you to refer me over to them. Just not to eliminate that human interaction. Dude, you said something a few minutes ago that it's one of my pet peeves. Every year on our birthdays, we get 5,000 people sending us happy birthday and emails and Facebook. And while it's nice, don't get me wrong, I enjoy them as much as anybody. It's that small handful that picks up the phone and calls us. It's that small handful that writes a personal handwritten note and mails me a birthday card. That's the one, the impact. And I think that's what you're basically saying in this article. Am I right there?
Yeah, and I think that if you're going to engage automation, to always think how this is actually going to impact the end recipient, as opposed to I can just check this box and that piece is done. A card went to Carl on his birthday. I feel really good about myself that I'm sending him cards. Instead, I'll give you an example actually with the birthdays, and I apologize for the shameless plugs here with Client Giant. I just don't know of another service that does it, and I don't care if you do this on your own. I sincerely don't, but I'll give you an example about how technology can do this for you, but still feel authentic. So, when's your birthday, Carl?
July 13th.
Okay, so July 13th, what would happen is if I had you on a birthday plan, which is actually a system, right? It's actually automation. I've plugged that in at some point in time, and now I don't have to think about it anymore, which I think is also important for a business owner, right? To remove those manual things. So your birthday is July 13th. What would happen is a gift would go out to you on July 8th. It's intentionally going to come to your place, your office, your home before July 13th. That's all done by design. Why? Because when it comes to you, it's going to speak to being there early and saying, hey, Carl, your birthday's almost here. Why not kickstart the celebration early? Here are some things, blah, blah, blah. There's the card. This does a few things. One, there's anticipation leading up to the birthday. Once the birthday has gone, any message is going to fall on deaf ears.
Mm.
Secondly, You know I wasn't reminded of your birthday on my calendar on Facebook because I hit you 5 days prior. So I must have really been paying attention, right? And then, of course, on the day of, I will have an automated reminder sent to me saying, hey, Jay, don't forget it's Carl's birthday. And here's a text message that's been composed for you already that you can copy and paste and send to Carl. So purely automated, right? This is all happening unbeknownst to you in a way, but the end recipient feels like, wow, this is really packed a punch. This is not a dentist birthday card or an email on my birthday that clearly was automated or plugged into some system. So I'm not hating on automation. I think it's critical, but you absolutely have to see, how is this going to feel at the tail end?
Got to humanize it, man. Man, that's some great stuff. I wrote that one down too. Birthday cards go out 5 days early. That's a brother. That's a great, because my birthday wasn't that long ago here, a couple months ago.
Right.
And you're right that the people that was like 3 days later, I would hear from them. It's funny how it crescendoed up to that day, and then after that day, it was that's very interesting. And by the way, I found out that's a big deal. I don't care how old you are. Your birthday's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Just real quick, tell me a little bit about Client Giant and what you do. I think you've earned the right for a shameless plug here. So, tell
Thank
us
you.
what you do.
Yeah, it's hard not to talk about what I do because I solved a problem in my world, and so now I share it, and it helps a lot of people out there. But basically, business owners will rely on us for two things. One is automated client care, so everything from birthdays, anniversaries, no reason gifts, quarterly surprises, or like someone moves, you have moving boxes, whatever. We have services for all these things that just make a business owner's life very easy because it's truly a set it and forget it, and everything appears to be coming from them, which it is. And then the other division of the company is business owner to employers to employees. So that's, what does their offer box look like? What does their first day look like? We're celebrating their 100th day, work anniversaries, birthdays, all of that stuff. So it's really automating thoughtfulness is what we do. I think the overarching theme here is that most people are thoughtful, and they probably would gift everyone they know with a birthday card or a message or something like that, should they be able to remember, right? Or even if I did remember, I know it's Carl's birthday on the 13th, but I have no clue what to get him. So that's the second piece. Well, I believe most people have a kind heart where they say, if that could be done for me, yes, I want to give, and I want that other person to feel special. And that's really why we exist.
Yeah, good stuff, man. So Client Giant, is that just clientgiant.com?
Yeah, clientgiant.com.
Perfect. Hey, Jay O'Brien, thank you so much for being the pilot in command here for the last 20, 30 minutes. I really appreciate doing a deep dive in the article. Dude, hot topic. I absolutely love it. And brother, I love I'm a simple guy. I like simple little ideas. And you're packing supplies and birthday 5 days early. Brother, I know marketing. Those are good ideas. So really good stuff, buddy. So
Thanks, Carl. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Hey, listeners, thanks so much for being part of the author showcase here on the Scotsman's Guide podcast. And myself and the fine people over at the Guide just ask one favor of you. Send this episode to 3 of your friends. Send it to 3 of your loan officer friends to help get the word out. They'll appreciate it. We'll appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Author Showcase brought to you by Scotsman Guide. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.